Hello, welcome to Staring Down the Storm, Autism Advocacy in America. I'm your host, Tabitha Ziegler. All right, welcome back, everybody. We have an amazing guest today. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Kari.
All right, I am Kari Sheward. I work at a nonprofit in Indianapolis, and I am in charge of all of our clinical and autism services. I'm a parent of 4 individuals, but one who is on the spectrum as well. I like to think of myself as an advocate. I'm wrapping up my doctoral program in less than 2 weeks.
That's impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, really focusing on, it's a leadership program, but really focusing on the social justice aspect across all areas. But my dissertation topic is autistic college students and the lack of supports for them across the country.
I find that really interesting, the social justice piece.
Yeah.
That plays pretty heavy here.
Yes.
Yeah. So what have you been up to lately at Tangram?
Oh, gosh. So my big push, as with my education, is really serving more of a marginalized population. So we serve the individuals kind of 13, 14 and up into young adulthood that are not receiving autism services. We also work on a trauma-informed model, so hands-off. We really try and push self-advocacy, which is kind of a unique perspective. So a lot of what we do there is give people a voice and let them be heard, and whatever that voice sounds like, if it's on a communication device, if it's signed, whatever, we honor what they want to say. And so often the folks that we're working with have been in services all their lives, and they just listen to what people tell them to do, and we don't want that. We want them to speak up for themselves. I look at it from a broader safety perspective. As some of our friends are getting older and going into maybe some group living situations, I want them to be able to tell someone if someone's mistreating them, or tell someone to stop. So we really focus hard on that advocacy piece.
Well, that's really important because, nobody likes to hear numbers like this, but the percentage is high.
Yeah.
For people on the spectrum and people with disabilities being sexually assaulted and abused in some way. And I think it's interesting that we don't really have those conversations and we treat these people lesser than.
Yeah.
Especially if they can't speak.
Exactly.
And that's definitely not a sign of intelligence.
It is kind of heartbreaking when we have, especially teens or, just kind of that tween age come in and they wait for us to tell them what to do or just to get through their day, and we don't. We're like, just explore, go and, let's figure out what you want to do, and let's get out and, enjoy the community and the world. And so often it takes weeks or months to get people just to recognize oh wow, I have a say in my life. I can go out and do what I want to do, or maybe I don't want to do whatever they're asking me to today, and I can say no and they hear me and it's okay. So it's it's interesting.
That is interesting. I kind of learned some lessons early on with my oldest child because being a Midwesterner. Are you originally from the Midwest as well?
I am from the region up by Chicago originally.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. So you'll understand what I'm saying. I think the way I was raised and the way a lot of people around here were raised was do what I say all the time.
Yeah.
And so then when we have children, that sort of flows over naturally. And when you have a child that has any sort of special need that falls outside the scope of those types of things, then you have to reinvent the wheel internally. You're like, right, I don't know how to do this. And so my older son, he had learned some skills at school, and I was upset with him and his siblings. They were probably fighting, which you've met them, so you've seen us
I love them. They're
WWE all the time, all day, every day. But because sometimes we get upset as parents, and if we weren't raised on the West Coast in Oregon or someplace like
Yeah.
that. And we don't have those skills, and we have to relearn those skills. Sometimes it's harder to put the genie back in the bottle.
Right.
And so I was getting a little hot with him, and he goes, shh. He's like, Mom, I need some space. And the back of my head felt like it was going to blow off. But I was like, right, okay, I'll give you some space.
Yeah.
And I thought, he just taught me something.
Yeah.
And I think, all of us to some degree were probably a little manhandled, especially whenever it got to the discipline part.
Yeah.
Because that's probably all their parents knew too, was just, we either need to go somewhere, or we're doing something now, or you have to get, whatever the task is.
Yeah.
We have to do it now. We need to get ready now.
Yeah.
We don't have space or time for your BS.
Yes.
Do it.
Yeah.
And so coming into parenting, I also started like that because that's what I knew.
Yeah. I'm telling you to do this. You don't have a say in it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so just the struggling and the wrestling around, whether it was brushing teeth, putting on clothes, going in the bath. I mean, Kai, he refused to bathe for like 2 weeks when he was, 4, 3.
Yeah.
And I was like, why won't this kid get in the bath? And he had language regression, so he couldn't really verbalize what was going on. I look back now and I feel awful about it, because there comes a point when it's like, we have to get in the bath, and it was a real struggle.
Yeah.
And I was having to give him, because I struggled with my parents as well, because they come from that mindset too, of like, right, this kid is filthy and he needs to get in the bath. And none of us could figure out, like, why won't you just go in the bath? Like, we have all the toys, it's warm, it's fun, there's bubbles, we'll let you watch your tablet, all these different things that we tried. And I'm not quite sure exactly what it was, but it could have just been the choice part, that he couldn't verbalize what he wanted or how he wanted it.
Yeah.
And so he was just saying no. And I think about those things as I go along, and when I speak to other people that have young children, because the goal is you always want to make them as independent as possible to do all the things, so that like when they come into your realm, they can say something.
Yeah.
Have some basic skills. And that's heartbreaking that the kids that you're dealing with, something didn't happen with their caregivers or their parents or whatever for it to click, for that process to have started sooner.
Yeah. And just learning to explain the why. Like, so often you're right, it's a yes or no.
Yeah.
And no one listens beyond that, because they're telling you to do something and you're supposed to say yes. And if not, you say no, and there's really no bigger discussion. So just expanding upon that, and just why. Why don't you want to do that? We don't have to. I'm just wondering why.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think the teenage years are interesting anyway for all kids.
yeah.
And then you throw some sort of disability on top of it, and
Yeah. Super fun.
that must just be crippling for those kids, because it's been a while. But I remember what it was like as a teenager. You have all these hormones pumping
yeah.
through you. You
yeah.
like rage issues or whatever you've got going on, and you can't always articulate what's going on. So then on
Yeah.
top of it, you throw on maybe someone can't speak,
Yeah.
uses a speaking device, plus all that frustration.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Must just be like a ticking time bomb.
It's hard. And then to explain kind of the why to them, like, okay, I know you're like a little more anxious or a little more agitated, and your body's just going through some things, and what do they comprehend at that point? Do they understand? It's it's fun.
So I want to dive into something that's a little bit more controversial, because
Cool. Yeah.
yes, because we deal with kids that are a little different than society sees them a little differently. So we're talking hormones, teenage years. Have you worked with any kids on the spectrum that end up telling you in some fashion that they're part of the trans community?
Yes.
And how do you deal with that at Tangram?
Yes, we support that. And this is very strange. So part of my role is to do diagnostic evaluations. And what I've found is younger, I shouldn't just cap it at like 16, but the older, like the teens and young adults, I would almost say 80% are coming in, and they might, I don't address anyone as she or he, or, I'm like, what's your pronouns? What do you prefer? I get them a way not like I take them away from their parents, but
Yeah.
you get more of
A little
a
space.
dialogue when it's with them, and the assessments are designed to just be with that person anyway at that age. And so we'll go into a room, and it'll take a little bit of time to develop a rapport and a trust, and yeah, you get a lot of leaning toward the trans community. Some have already transitioned, some are in the process, but it's interesting, and I don't know the connection between the neurodivergent community and the trans community, but I see a definite overlap from my side of the world. But yeah, no, we definitely support that. Honestly, the families that I meet with, for the most part, have been supportive of that. Some don't understand, obviously, and they're still learning, but they're willing to learn, and I think that's refreshing. There are the few that are just like, don't tell my parents, but this is where I'm at, and in which case I've tried to talk through, like, I bet if you did share this, your parents would be supportive because they want you to be happy. Not always, you hope, but yeah, it's a larger community that we definitely fully support.
Well, I wanted to ask, because there are talks right now about conversion therapy and bringing it back.
Yes.
Which I think is a horrible idea, because having an alive child versus an unalive child is like number one.
They have a lot of conversion therapists here in this city. My daughter is in high school, and she has friends who, they kind of, not to make light of it, they kind of joke about it because they're like, oh my gosh, my daughter will cover for one of her friends, like, who's seeing another girl, because her parents would just, like, she's like, they're going to send me, she calls it her concentration camp. And I'm like,
wow.
Yeah. But yes, I have staff who had to go into conversion therapy. Their parents put them in that. And it's so sad. So sad. And none of it, in the people that I have known that have gone through that, has it impacted, other than to really cause a rift between them and their families and the people who felt the need to try and change who they actually are.
Well, I find it interesting because, as you all know, I have an older child. Well, he's not old, and I probably shouldn't even say he. I'm not sure. He was born a he, and that's how he came into the world, and he doesn't really have the language for it yet. But Kai wears dresses, likes to play dress up, has long hair. Several times when we go out in public, like, just about anybody would think he's a girl. And I don't see the need to do anything about that, because he's a kid and he's enjoying himself.
Right.
But I'm aware that there's going to come a time when his body is going to start to change. And right now, it can sort of still be play, and he can kind of feel it out. But all this information that's coming in about the trans community, like, I've reached out to some of my friends in the trans community, that drag queens, drag kings, whatnot. And I'm part of the LGBTQ community as well. So, I'm not super shocked that my son wears dresses, put it that way. Like, we're just checking all the boxes. But it's important to me because he came from me to make sure that he feels whole. And I'm already thinking ahead in my brain, like, little things like, I know my parents are really uncomfortable with that. And so I have to monitor the language in the house and stuff like that. So far, sort of so good. There are little things where my mom might be like, no, those are Sissy's pajamas. And he's like, no, they're mine. And, they kind of let things like that slide. But I know for a fact, because my mom was really wound up about all the trans stuff. And I think it's primarily fear, because they don't understand it.
Right.
And we fear what we don't know.
Right.
And there are people right now exploiting that fear, that division.
Yes.
Rather than just seeing a person. And my kid's just smack dab in that, and he'll be 6. And I'm already thinking 10 years from now, 12 years from now, I'm not going to be around forever. So I find it really interesting what you're doing at Tangram, because he's probably got about a year left of ABA. Mm-hmm. And I'm already like, what's the next step? Because I don't want to send him back to public school. Not so much, it's not because of the teachers or whatever. And it's not even necessarily the kids' fault. But, kids learn to hate from their parents.
Yeah.
And I was a fairly popular kid in school, but I still got made fun of and teased and whatever. And I know what happened to the kids that were different.
Oh, yeah.
So my kid's different, and I'll be damned. Like, that's just how I see it. I'm like, no way. I'm not putting him in bubble wrap, but I just feel like he's just a beautiful soul, and I want him to be creative. Mm-hmm. And I've watched that get sucked out of people.
Yeah.
And so everything I can do to prevent that part, still give him his struggles, still make sure he's gritty, all of that. But I've seen the light go out in people, and I don't want that to happen to my son.
Yeah. I don't see that happening with you as his mom, but yeah.
No, but I think it's a conversation worth having, because
it is
for people that are worried and are very religious, and there are people in the communities feeling very strongly about certain things. If you are one of these people that's a little bit more malleable when it comes to how you think, there are people out there exploiting people right now. So I figured it was worth having this conversation.
No, I think, and you hit the nail on the head when you said it's not necessarily the teachers, it's not even administration in some cases.
Sure.
But it is the kids and their families and what they're getting hit with when they get home. And that's the tough part. And how do you address that? And there are schools, and if you go in and you talk to them ahead of time, like, these are my concerns, this is the environment I'm looking for, there are very, very supportive smaller schools that can really kind of keep up with what is happening on the playground, in the lunchroom, and those conversations to be supportive. I've seen it be very successful, and then I've seen it be very unsuccessful. And it's just, you can set your child up to be the most, you can prepare them for whatever life's going to hand them and whatever you think someone's going to say, but when it really happens, and it happens day after day, it does, it wears them down. And but just being aware of that, I think, as you will, and you'll have you'll know if something's happening, but how to address that. And once it does, like, what do you do? How do you get trust back in other people?
Well, I feel like I've got a pretty good compass, and there are people in the community that I talk to, and I actively seek things out. But for the people that don't, or are not sure, and let's say their child is diagnosed later, doesn't have as many identifiable struggles, and maybe they get diagnosed in school, at like 12, and then maybe I'll just paint an imaginary family, just why not? Let's say very religious mother, construction dad, or something to that degree, working class people, straight, didn't see this coming, and then all of a sudden they have a kid that's like prepubescent, right along that line, starts to have the hormones, and all of a sudden, not only are they autistic or have ADHD, part of the neurodiverse community, but wham, boom, gay on top of it.
Yeah.
Like, for these people that are shocked and struggling, where do you think they should start for someone like that, being that you deal with the teenage community?
First of all, if they were to come to us, painting the picture of those parents, they don't often come to us. They like to ignore the fact that wow, my child might need some supports to overcome some challenges. No, they're fine. So that's often swept under the rug in itself. But that is a very, very difficult group. If we could pluck all of those people into a room and just have a big educational session about mental health and how their negativity can impact their child, and don't you just want your child to be happy? Yeah. Is what you really want to say to everyone. Just their happiness is the biggest thing in the world, and who cares who they love, who they want to be. Just let them be happy. And I think also, in addition to your family that you created there, it's also the people that have a need to please their neighbors or society, and have that big facade of a life too. And I think that is almost not worse than just the conservative family. I feel like kids kind of expect that, but to have this family that feels like it's shameful to be who you want to be, and that they hide you, those probably drive me crazier than the ones that are just uneducated and just haven't been exposed to other ways of thinking.
Well, let's just go worst case scenario. Just for shits and giggles, why not? Because,
gosh, what's worse?
We've got all kinds of examples. And the reason I want to dive into this is because you're entertaining me to do it.
Okay.
And because I have a lot of friends along the way. And, I came out when gay wasn't cool. And I have several friends of mine that were harassed, beat up, ostracized from their families, things of that nature. One would think we've evolved since then, but it seems like we're, devolving now.
Yeah.
So for a couple parents that would fall more in that bracket, maybe they're even going down the rabbit hole of conversion therapy. But they just have that one glimmer of I'm not sure. Could they just call? They could just call Tangram and say, listen.
Yeah.
Just call your phone number, and then the secretary picks up.
Ask for me.
No, but seriously.
Yeah.
I think we need to offer some of these people an SOS. If you're watching, here's your SOS. You can call Tangram. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So at least that's one phone number, so we'll make sure and drop that in the comments.
Yeah, definitely. And especially the youth. That's really who.
Can the youth call you, or does it have to be their parents?
They can call, yeah. To provide any kind of therapy or services, we have to get, a release, but
they could do their own research and present it to their parents.
Absolutely.
Well, that's a good resource.
And it should be that way. I know there are, I'm trying to think of the one I used to work with back in the day when I worked on a crisis line. And that was at that time, it was a while ago, because I'm old, but it was one of the only places. It was this one hotline that you could call for support, which was also very sad to think about. But especially now, in this time in our lives, I think there needs to be more of that, and it needs to be, well, they've taken away a lot of the emergency crisis numbers anyway, but really publicizing where people can go to get support and putting that out there. Because the giant numbers, the global numbers that people used to be able to call have been taken away. So,
Well, I think what I'm discovering, like most things, is it's going to be the women that solve these problems, and it generally always is.
Yes, that's true.
So, I think we're cracking away pretty good in Indianapolis, in the surrounding area.
Yeah.
We're starting to talk to one another and realize, okay, they're taking more resources away from our community, and how can we provide that?
Yeah.
Which, this podcast is sort of part of that, bringing all these people together. So if there's anybody out there that's doing something cool, let us know, because you can come and tell everybody about it.
That would be great. That would be great. And just putting it out there, social media, where everyone goes to find information. I think that's important, and putting it out there for the the kids, the youth that are being impacted by it too. And I think school educational programs, I know that seems far-fetched that a school would host such a thing, but there probably are some that would. They have to have, the support groups, even the college campuses around town that are kind of religious in nature, they still have, diverse groups. They can't call them that anymore, but they have, places where people can meet.
I'm kind of giggling in a bad way inside because I found out some information about my alma mater that I don't like.
Oh, yeah.
I went to Indiana State, and they used to have more resources for the LGBTQ community. Apparently, they're just getting all that. And there was a professor there that moved to Michigan. I think she was an adjunct professor, but I had a conversation with her not too long ago, and she told me about some of the things that were going on there, and I was like, interesting. And, I use at too. Like driving on 74 to come here, there used to be this big billboard that I thought was like fairly accurate representation of student life. And if I remember correctly, there was like a Caucasian man, an African American female, there's maybe one more. There were at least two. And I thought, hey, that's decent. That's like a fairly accurate representation of student life. And you probably won't see it because, I doubt you're starting from where I'm starting and driving that direction. But now, wouldn't you believe it, it's just like brick and mortar and a dude, just a white dude. And I was like, you guys are dropping the ball here. And I keep seeing more and more of this. And I'm like, if you want to make the women angry, keep it up. Keep it up.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think they're pulling the wrong tiger's tail here, especially when it comes to like the autism moms and the moms that handle IEPs. Like, we do more in a day than you can possibly imagine. Well, some of you guys, like, no offense, people probably watching this are not in the same bracket, but some of these guys can barely tie their shoes. And if they have access to a special needs child, I guarantee you their wife's the one doing all the work.
Doing all the work, yeah.
So they can't even possibly conceive of some of the things that we're talking about. Yet these are some of the same people that are leading us in government, and I just find it repulsive.
Yeah.
It's not an accurate representation of the population. They're not doing a good job. They're dropping the ball, and they're certainly not listening to the constituents. Doesn't seem like
it's a majority of the people that are leading us in government. That's interesting that you said that about you, because I heard, I don't know how long ago it was that Braun was down there recently and just had allegedly a huge gathering of people supporting him and listening to him. And I'm like, I'd be curious to go and see what that looked like, because my son goes to Ball State, and he was telling me 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a lot of protests and different things, kind of their own No Kings rally, but then they also had like a freedom of speech rally, and because they fired one of the faculty for speaking freely about.
Shocker.
Yeah. But they had all of these, peaceful demonstrations about what was happening, and they did not stop them, which made me happy. He said that, everyone was able to convey their thoughts and continue that. And so that did make me happy. Not that they had to do that, but that they were able to kind of share their thoughts and their voice and be heard by whoever needed to hear it. And I think that's helpful. There's also so many, my little old mother, God love her.
I want to hear about Mom.
Oh,
Tell us about Mom.
Oh my goodness.
It's always a good story when someone says, oh, God love them.
So my brother and I have gotten her a Bluetooth speaker to listen to music, because she will our father passed away nearly 30 years ago, but she remarried, and that husband passed away. And so then she just took this deep dive into Fox News, and we're just like, oh no. And it's just 24/7. They've become her friends, and she talks about the reporters like they're our family members, and we're just like, no. no, but you can't convince her otherwise of what her thoughts are. And it's like, no, we have to stop. So we've got the music trying to play, and you just can't. Some people you just can't change. And I think of all the people that are sucked into that. And I've listened to it when I'm at our house because I'm curious. I'm like, what is it about this? And they're very, very convincing in how they'll pick one little piece of a situation, one little negative piece. The communist posters during the No Kings thing, probably the one that they had, and that turned into an entire day's broadcast on the news station. We're probably going to get calls from Fox News, sorry.
I would love it. And you know why I would love it is this. My parents watch Fox News.
Yeah.
And I have multiple agendas here. And I come from a very red area of the state. My family's been here since it was Indian Territory. And I really want to do everything I can to remind people what it is to be a Hoosier, what things used to be about, and that there are people out there that don't really care about you. They don't really care about your family, and they're warping your values, and they're weaponizing your religion. And some of this hate that I've seen firsthand, I've been in the thick of it. And man, I would, I've got a backbone made of fire, and I would love to talk to some of these people.
Yeah.
Because I'm so angry that at their lack of care and their purpose is not great. I want to be careful with my words because there are those people that I'm sure feel very strongly that these people are journalists and are projecting news. Luckily, even though I'm younger, I still remember the Walter Cronkites and all that. And being part of the neurodiverse community myself, I will say we're like canaries in a coal mine, and it's probably easier for me to see through it. Yeah. Where I'm like, right, like I can see these things happening, I can see these different agendas, and I can see how people are being fed into this wood chipper, if you will.
Yeah.
And that they don't care. So what they're doing, and then the resulting carnage that they've created, and purposely separating families and purposely separating communities to benefit their end. And I personally find it very un-American because I have lots of thoughts.
Well, it's very divisive, and I feel like and that's the thing, like you're thinking like if they had a family member who was LGBTQ, who was neurodivergent, who was whatever, wherever they fell, would that alter their agenda? I don't know. I think sometimes it has to touch them, and you see some people change, like if they have children and then, something happens in their world, but oftentimes I don't know. I think it has to touch them from a personal perspective before they'll change, and even then, not necessarily.
Have you heard of that podcast? I've had it. No? You'll love that one. There are these two ladies, I think they were originally from Oklahoma, but they just, I think they're one of the truly American podcasts out there. Some people would disagree with me, but I find, I've had lots of time to think about it. It's just my opinion. But I find one of the things that really connects Americans from all walks of life, when I really sat in some of this hate and stuff, and I was questioning, I'm like, why can't people see things, or this, that, or the other thing? And it dawned on me, Americans at the core, from the very beginning, and I think it's something even with the immigrants that came in, just something that permeates through American society is this: we don't want to be told what to do. We don't like it. freedom is a mindset. And I think that's something that's passed along and we're kind of forgetting. But I think that's what a lot of these protests are about. And those that are mocking it are mocking the American history and American system. So for a family like mine, like I've had relatives, the European part, that have been here from the American Revolution. And I always question things in American politics and whatever. I always felt this need to hold people accountable. Yeah. And man, I've ramped that up about 20 times because when I see people doing things that I feel are very anti-American, I call them on it. And I think that is actually a very American thing. Like, we're a mix of cultures that from the very beginning were born out of fire and turmoil and bloody battles and all this stuff. But the real core of it, and I think this is where we will really come together eventually, the grittiest of the gritty are like the farmers and the people that live in the mountains and all that. That at the end of the day, they want to be left alone. They don't want to be told what to do. But they do have that sense of community and they don't like to be conned. Right. So these people that are working them up, and when it finally dawns on them that they don't care about them and they have an agenda and they don't care about their communities, oh man, will they have really jerked that dragon's tail.
Do you feel, I have two thoughts related to everything you're saying. I feel it's funny because I've had thoughts about America and the USA chanting and everything. And so I find it refreshing that you're tying it back into the core of American values and how they're still good and that it's not something to be ashamed of. It's just how it's being shaped right now. And I like that a lot. And that's helping my brain right now. But I feel like in the last, since January, I think the first, few months, everyone was just like, some were very happy, some were in shock.
Yes.
Everyone just like the dust has settled now. And I feel like there are more of those farmers, those people that are sitting back going, what is happening? Like, this is not what was intended. I know, people who are just really rethinking a lot of what they've set us all up for. You know what I mean? Yeah, they're just like, wow, this is not
like pitting neighbor against neighbor.
Yeah, this is not where I thought this was going. Just seems like a very surreal situation at this point. And and maybe it's because of the circle of who I run around with, but I don't see anyone going, well, yes, this is great. This is wonderful. Like, we're just thriving under this new regime. I don't see that. But I, of course, wouldn't. But it's interesting.
Yeah, like I said, I have lots of thoughts. But I really think at the core, when you go back, which this is why this documentary that Ken Burns is putting out is so important. Because you have things like PragerU out there, which shame on them for, trying to recalibrate the minds of the youth to something that is not accurate.
Yeah.
And it's just harmful all the way around. But we're like a ragtag bunch that deployed guerrilla warfare against the British Army and got help from the French and, the native population. Like, literally the very first thing that kicked all this off, there was a black man there. They were like amping up soldiers with like nothing but their voices and sticks and stones, basically. And that's what started all of this stuff. And I just find it interesting, these people, I don't want to call them men because I don't think they are. And I think a lot of the women are far stronger, especially from those families that are like farming families and whatever. Because some of these guys that, maybe, I will say, I've always been proud that I was north of the Mason-Dixon line. That's always like a sense of pride for me. I don't know, and someone can call me out on it if they find out something differently, but, I feel like I would be shocked if I found out that I had like slave runners or something like that in my family. Because even at their worst, some members of my family, I feel like it was always more about working together, providing for the community. I'd also be really shocked if there was anything like really, really heinous. And I think there's like a large portion of the American public that's like that. That's like, right, hardworking, maybe they're farmers or steel workers or, you know, in a union or whatever. And I don't think these people are running around raping kids or in child sex rings or whatever. And I always remember my grandpa basically saying, like, you can't trust the ones in suits. And I think that's true. Like, idle hands are the devil's playground. I heard all that stuff, and I think it's true. Like, most of Americans, especially most American guys, just in general, I don't care what color you are, most of them are not running around raping kids. And if they are, I think we need to deal with that.
Sure.
So, like, there are certain levels where I feel like America is finding where their baseline is again. And they're starting to have conversations, thank God.
Yeah.
And like all the stuff going on in the disability community is really rearing that up. I posted something I saw the other day. I try and keep on it as much as I can, but in Portland, Oregon, the ICE officers came out and they picked up this blind guy by his ankles, basically, like 5 of them. And, you know, kind of shook him a bit like a rag doll and like drug him back in. And I thought, you guys right now, like the real men out there that could walk into a gay bar and not feel threatened, because let's face it, like at the end of the day, if you're comfortable in your manhood, what do you have to worry about?
Who cares? Exactly.
What do you have to worry about?
Yeah.
Same with the females. Like, are you worried because you want to and you're curious, and that's okay? There's a space for that.
Right.
Like, maybe just embrace yourself. Just embrace yourself a little. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard. You know, maybe you will be ostracized from certain communities you're in right now, and maybe you'll find a new one.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean that you should stomp on the rights of others.
Condemn the other ones, yeah.
And I'll tell you, some of this stuff I've seen, like the priest that got hit with a rubber bullet, the blind guy getting drug off, the pregnant woman that, you know, they kept in Washington State for however long for playing a clarinet, like shooting frog protesters. I'm like, you guys, you are pushing it. You are pushing it, because last time I checked, this wasn't Russia. And I know there are people right now that like to fluff that. And I feel bad for the Russian civilian population. But my thought is, people are scared, or people were scared. And now they're stepping more into their own. And you're seeing it in places like Portland and Chicago, where it is nonviolent and communities are coming together. And I'm like, oh, you guys, like, the American giant is awakening.
Yeah.
I feel like. And that's why I feel like it's important to have conversations like this, because I'll tell you what, I might only be one person, but I'm going to rattle some chains. Like, I feel like that's my main goal. Like, I am going to hold as many people accountable as I can, and I'm going to try and anybody that's doing good, I'm going to try and bring them to the surface. Give them their time.
Yeah. I applaud that. And it's funny because, like, just talking to you, I feel more energized and less depressed about things. Because you're right. I mean, there are a lot of conversations happening now, a lot of groups uniting, a lot of, you know, and I see it in the disability community, which is great. But I feel like that's kind of a tight-knit community that really tries to always support and do things, but across the board for just different families, different immigrant families, just whoever it is, just having more support for people. I've seen happen. I have a really good friend who's, when we talk about social justice, her church, she goes to an Episcopal church. I should know the name of it. I do a shout out for it, but I don't. It's on the west side. But they do something all the time, every weekend. They take families in. They help with different causes. They, they gather together and go to different rallies and marches, and it's just there are more of those groups now, and they're very proud, and they speak out versus sitting back. So I think it is, while the leaders of the country would like to say that they're able to keep everything, kind of shift us all aside, I think it's backfiring. And I think people are uniting, like you said.
Well, I know I'm different, and that's probably a good thing. So I do think that courage is contagious, and there's powers in numbers, and there's always something that people can do. And I think there's real power behind the mindset. And I think all of us individually and as a group, we are at that point now where we have to decide, like, what hill are we going to die on? Like, who are you willing to take a bullet for, sort of thing.
Right.
And I think those people that were scared 6 months ago are starting to be less scared. The people that are scared now, the more that people like us speak, the less scared they will be. And the more that those of us put ourselves out there in our communities in positive ways, find ways to give back, even in like the smallest ways, right. Everybody's watching right now. And I think even the naysayers, even the people that are real deep in it, that are still convinced that they're doing the right thing, I think that tide is also turning.
I mean, if they look at the core of everything, and it's just being good people, and kind, and supporting one another, and those values, you can't argue that.
Well, you can argue whatever you want.
Can. This is true.
But, picture's worth 1,000 words. Yeah. And the more blind guys that they haul off like that, the more kids they put in zip ties. I think you have to decide basically, like, how much of a racist are you? And if you are, raise your hand, like, if you're proud of it.
Right.
But for those of us that aren't that, like, we have to double down and call it out. And there have to be more white faces saying things in public places that lead organizations that start to put their foot down and be like, no, not here.
Yeah.
I will say I was pleasantly surprised. They were failing at redistricting in Indiana. Did you see that?
Yes.
I thought they were just going to go ahead.
I did too.
And that makes me proud of Indiana.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, maybe you guys are starting to get scared, and you should. Like, there should be a healthy fear going around for those people right now that aren't accurately representing their constituents. Because if anybody should be scared, it should be them. Because there are fewer of them than there are of us.
And I feel like people are questioning that now, and they're not just going along. I've seen, oh my gosh, just different things happening in communities that I was judging them based on my own preconceived notions here in the suburbs around Indianapolis, and just seeing different movements. It's so exciting to see. I'm shocked.
Well, I think it's important to voice things to set a standard. And I feel like this. We're all Americans, and these are all our kids. Like, all the disability kids, they're all of our children. All these brown kids are all of our children. And we have to have that thought that's more like, I'll be damned, try it.
Right.
I think more of the communities need to be like that. Like, you show up here and you're going to find out. Now, I'm not saying necessarily violence. That's not my point. But it is a mindset. And I think that the police are starting to sense it. I think the military knows. And those ICE officers right now that are feeling a little bigger than their britches and pounding their chest a little too hard, they should be afraid. Because I don't think It might take longer than any of us want or any of us expected. I do not think the tide is going to turn in their direction, and I do think they will be held accountable for their actions. So for the family members that have ICE agents in their family right now, just do them a favor. Just tell them, listen, whether you signed up for the money, whether you're a racist, whatever, like, there's not going to be a resurgence of the KKK, especially not in Indiana, because we've already done that in the 30s. And those of us that heard those stories and know that history, we're not going to allow that here.
No.
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, I'm beating that drum pretty hard.
I am glad you are.
Because I know what happened. A lot of people don't know what happened, but like, Google in the 1930s what happened to the Grand Dragon of the KKK in Indiana, and you will hear a horror story that will make your toes curl. And that was the fall of the KKK. And I'll just do your own research. Google it. If you want to know more and you can't find it, just message me. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Horrific. And so anytime I hear anything about black and brown people, whenever Governor Braun was like, I'm going to use this military facility and we're going to put brown people there, I was like, oh, hell no.
Why?
You start like,
Yeah.
I'm not telling people to be violent. I'm just saying at the end of the day, we have our own history in Indiana. Like I said, I felt good about Indiana being above the Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln grew up here as a child. I just feel like there are things like that in Indiana that, for the ones that are from here, or from the ones that are from Chicago, up north, whatever. If you're from the north and there's some sort of history there for you that you're proud of, and like, we don't do that stuff here, get a pulpit, speak up, find a box, like, say something.
And on the ICE front, while we're discussing that, I think also people don't know that they can send them away. Like, they see an ICE agent come to their door or go to their neighbor's door, go to their place of business, which has happened to me. They can't just enter. They might want to.
Mm-hmm.
They might want to, get documentation.
Mm-hmm.
They might ask for things. Without a court order, they can't do anything. And I've seen a couple news specials where they've gone to people's apartments, and it was really encouraging, because the people are like, no, like, you can't just come into my house and don't do that. And the places of business that they're coming into, I don't think people know that. They get scared, and they're like, oh my gosh, if they come to, I don't want to like call out a business, but if they were to come to a business, you don't have, you don't have to let them in. And 9 times out of 10, they don't have a court order to enter the premises.
Well, they're doing some shady stuff that I think there are probably those still that are really hardcore about. They're all criminals, which, do a little bit of research. Ground news I like, because, I don't know, have you heard of ground news?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because, if there's a little bit of something for everybody and you don't believe everyone, like, do a little research. Libraries are a good thing.
Yeah.
Read a few diverse newspapers. I know the news is getting a little questionable, but listen to a few podcasts. I like The Bulwark. I like, what else? There's a few of them. I like Monty Madar. Probably all those same ones that you listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes it's too much, and I'm like, right, I've had enough today, I have to turn it off. Because you can only do so much.
Yeah.
But, I did not like the other day when I heard that ICE agents were waiting outside of a church in the Chicago suburbs, and they were just trying to pick people off. But I did like that all the neighbors came out with their whistles and started whistling, and it scared them off.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, people are finding inventive, nonviolent ways to scare them. And the more people that they shoot, the worse off it's going to get, because people don't like that.
Yeah.
Not in the U.S.
No.
I just, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm holding on real tight to that hope that we're better than this, because I believe in it. And my family's American, and I want this to be a safe place for my kids to live, or if they leave, come back to.
Mm-hmm. This is such a refreshing spin, because I didn't think, I don't know, I guess that was not where I thought your mind was. So I you're making me feel better about our history and America and the people, and seeing the good in people, and that people can unite and overcome all of this.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't always there. And I think people should be honest, like, you don't get this way, like, it just doesn't happen. I was afraid at the beginning too. And I was really thinking, like, in order for my kids to have a childhood, we're going to have to leave.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have an interesting background with travel, so like,
Yeah.
I could make that happen.
Yeah, which is why when you were speaking like this, I was like, wow, this is very, very different. Okay.
But what really changed for me was this. I was thinking about it. And I've watched things as they're going on around the world. And I'm like, right. Even though, like, our generation didn't want to be the one again, like, nobody wants to be that generation
Right.
that's like pre-war or something like that. But when you see the things going on around the world as they are, I think those people that are paying attention know it's not just the U.S. And everybody has always watched the U.S. I don't know. I don't have all the answers as to why.
Yeah.
But I do know, historically, that we were this experiment in democracy. And from the seed of our stuff, it just went out to the world. And then other democracies started popping up. And I'm not saying that, we necessarily did that. But I am saying that when you come from a history like that, no matter how young, I don't know. I'm not convinced that they can turn this into Russia or China. I'm just not convinced. I do know that the powers that be that are separating us, it's intentional, and it makes us weaker. And to places like Russia and China that are doing certain things where, their citizens don't necessarily have the freedoms.
Right.
And also for the youngsters that haven't grown into their own, it's a very dangerous time for us not to lead. Because those of us that had freedom and were able to make mistakes, like, whatever it was, like, you drank too much, right. You smoked some weed, maybe you got pregnant as a teen, I don't know. But, like, those of us that at least had the opportunity to make mistakes, our kids, our grandkids, like 7 generations from now, I don't know, maybe I'm hopeful. I think when the rubber meets the road, I don't know that Americans, when it comes to that, I don't know if they'll acquiesce. And I hope there's enough people like me that I'm like, I will go to extreme lengths to save all of the youngsters in my area, to make sure that they're educated, like, whatever I need to do to make sure that those kids have a chance. Mm-hmm. And I just hope there are more of us. I think there are. But I think that's the importance of podcasts like this.
I agree.
To just push it out. Just put the curiosity out there and just have people ask themselves that question. Like, if you've not been to Russia, which I've not, but I do know Russians. I know there were a lot of Russians that came here, and they fled. And then to have our troops literally roll out a red carpet for that war criminal. I know all of my relatives that were in the military must be turning in their freaking graves right now.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't think long term, I don't think the American public is the type of populace for all of our differences that's going to be like, yeah, sign me up for that. That sounds like a great time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Eastern Soviet bloc. Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what's going to end up happening, but I just feel like at the core of what it means to be an American, it's just not that. And if there are enough of us that are this age, these age ranges, that have experienced some of those good things, it's our obligation to teach the youth that, like, hey, these things aren't normal.
Right.
Like, for all of our differences, for all of the different religions, for the most conservative of us, like, we're not about these things.
Right.
I'm hopeful.
You're giving me hope. Yeah.
I think we have to be hopeful
Yeah.
because I've got these little kids that, they're going to have struggles, and I'm seeing what's going on in Myanmar and Congo and Palestine, Ukraine, like the list is endless. And when you start to piece those things together, you're like, right, it's not just here, like Nepal, there's, what was it? I think Peru has some controversy. People are protesting there too. Like there are all these things starting to pop up.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing the correlation between they're the very rich. They're trying to put the world back into like a feudal state.
Absolutely.
And the world is rebelling. And
Absolutely.
they're like, no, like we don't want this. Like this was a time in the past and we're supposed to do better. So now I think people around the world, they're just starting to rebel because, I don't know, I'm feeling the earth shake in a good way and I'm liking it, especially for the females.
Yeah.
I think there are more females like, hell no. Like, maybe that happened to my great-grandma, my grandma, or whatever, but you're not doing that to my daughter, and you're sure as shit not doing that to my granddaughter.
Exactly.
Like, try me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you're seeing that sort of thing more and more throughout the world. And for those guys, I really think there are more of those American guys that really love their female offspring and are like, no, like
You're
we're
right.
not doing,
I don't want to see
we're
that.
not doing
Yeah.
the Handmaid's Tale here.
Yeah.
No, sir. I think. So for those like very small-minded and feeble people that feel like they're going to like subjugate the American public or especially the American females, I think they're sadly mistaken. I'm hopeful for that too.
I agree. I would love to get numbers because I feel like, I don't know, I think I've always felt until I got in my doctoral program, I didn't know how outspoken people are across the country. And my program's out of Dayton. And I'm kind of the minority in my group, which is refreshing. And I hear a lot of stories. I have a couple folks in my cohort that are from Africa.
Okay.
And just everyone sharing their stories and things that happen and different movements across the country and other countries that are aligning with what we're talking about. It is refreshing. And then for the longest time, I just thought, no, it's just the people I gravitate toward. The bigger population doesn't feel this way. But that's not necessarily true. And the more I'm, reflecting on that, and as you're speaking, I'm like, you're right. There is a giant movement that is really questioning where we're going and what's happening.
I'm so excited for your program, really, because I think more people need to be doing that stuff. And I think, for a lot of people, even myself, you kind of question yourself, like, maybe I'm not smart enough, or maybe I don't have the background to go back to school or to pursue higher education. And, people that have a drive need to do that stuff because we need people to keep the histories of what's going on. Like, we need the authors and the artists and the professionals, and we need those people that are willing to sacrifice their time to study. And I know we're losing a bunch of scientists right now, but like that part of society is important, like the record keepers.
Yeah.
To keep track of all these things and to push society forward. So
Absolutely.
I'm really proud of you for doing what you're doing.
Thanks. I chose the program that I chose because it's all based on action research. So you identify an area that you want to change and you come up with a plan and then you actually engage in that plan. And while mine, focuses on, the autism world, it's everybody had such great, hugely impactful programs, and it's exciting to see where they're going to go. One of my cohort members, his was in banking and finance.
Okay.
But he was looking at the disparity between who was approved for loans and could start businesses and things like that. And, the Black and brown population is getting rejected. I forget the percentage. And so he did a deep dive into the financial institutions and how to help people just get the funding to start businesses or programs to change whatever their trajectory is or other people's. So everyone's, action plans are really exciting to hear about.
So tell us the name of the program. So for anybody that's interested that might want to apply, tell them a little bit about that process.
I will. So it's the University of Dayton Leadership for Organizations is the doctoral program I'm in. They have the whole university is amazing, and really they fought a lot of the changes that were occurring at the beginning of the year to the extent that they could. Obviously, they received federal funding, so they had to do that tap dance around everything. But just the faculty and the number of administration there that just really support different cultures, different ethnicities, and different movements. It's like you just feel like change happening when you're there. Everyone has a purpose, and they have so many. Not that all college campuses don't have that. I'm sure they do, but they
but we're at a changing point right now.
Yeah, but it just they lead with that, and it's unapologetic. They're just like, okay, what do we need to do? And they're having artists come in. They're having different plays and musicals about change and about. I wish I could think of. Don't get old. It's awful.
So, are you going to campus, or are you doing most of it online?
It's hybrid. So we go for different immersion dates throughout, and then we meet every week virtually.
So you're having the opportunity to see some of these people in the flesh. That's cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's great, the connections that you make with people and with similar interests or with completely different interests. I've learned so many different things. A lot of people are in the educational system, whether that be elementary, high school, higher ed. So I've seen from that perspective, medical industries, the service industries that it's a lot of access and people unable to access basic needs and just supporting individuals, but it's great. But yeah, they have undergrad, master's, and doctoral level programs under this specific category. And I got in, I didn't want to go in my specific field for a doctoral program. I wanted to do something that was going to change something in the world. But I had no idea that it was going to be this impactful for me personally to come up with a plan that I can now implement. Yeah.
So what's your long-term goal, after you get your degree? What do you want to do with it?
I am going to sit with it for a while. I love what I'm doing at Tangram, and Tangram's an amazing place. I am implementing my dissertation. My action plan is actually something that I've been doing for a little bit. It just shifted. It's a program that we do for transition-aged individuals going into adulthood. So while I spun it to support people going into college, the program's really designed for anyone. So it could be, our high school students, where are they going to go next? It might be as simple as getting through the day, who helps you throughout your day with getting up, getting to appointments, taking your medication, whatever it is, to someone that wants to work a job or go to trade school or college, and just meeting people where they're at and setting up a plan and supports to get them there. So that's fun, and we've been doing that for a while.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to have a diverse group of people around you. I feel like I do. I don't think I'd be doing what I was doing without probably being in the aviation industry. because I had the opportunity to be around a lot of different people, different cultures, different languages.
Yeah.
And for, someone that's from a very rural part of Indiana, besides my education, when you put yourself in positions and you travel and you're around other people, like, I feel like it takes more work to be isolated and to be small-minded than to just open yourself up to the possibilities.
Exactly.
And everybody benefits because, you may have something that other people in this group don't have that they want some experience in. Like, I was a French speaker for years. So one of my friends, I think he was from Marseille originally, so like city kid. And we were walking around the streets of Paris one day just chatting, and he was just telling me how cool it was that I was from a farming family, and that he basically thinks like the farmers should teach everyone and that we're going to save the world essentially. And I never saw that perspective. And I was like, that's really interesting, because I've basically been spending my whole life trying to get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're telling me, here are like families like mine have all this knowledge. So I just think the transfer of ideas is so interesting, and it just helps the world, because you just never know where you're going to find that nugget or run into that right person that introduces you to someone else or to a program or whatever. And rather than isolating ourselves with nationalism and all that, I think it's a defeating thought, because the world now functions that way. And now that the world citizenry, I'll say, like, we've all had access to stuff and we're curious, and I don't think it's going to serve anybody, and I don't think it's going to work, all this nationalism of like, right, like we're going to close our borders and no more Mexicans, or if it's Italy, right, like we're Italian and no more Spanish or no more Moroccans. Like, the world populace doesn't function like that anymore. Like, we thrive on our diversity and the spread, like the spreading of the ideas.
Yeah. When you remove that whole component, the one thing, my poor mother, she probably won't watch a podcast, so it's okay.
You never know. We might have a conversation.
We might.
I always hope that my parents are watching. I don't have that conversation, but I hope at some point they might get curious. And so I've got like little gems all over the place that, like, if you ever watch, you'll know what I'm doing.
She might. But the one thing she said to me, and at first I was like so offended by her, but we were talking about her growing up in the Chicago area, and she's like, I just, I had black friends and I just never saw color. And I'm like, but you need to. And she didn't understand that. I'm like, it's important. It's okay to be like, wow, you come from a different family than me. Tell me about it. That's how you learn. That's how you show that you care about their history, where they came from, what their days are like. I'm like, in my field, when I'm working with a family, from a different culture or different ethnicity, I'm like, what's important to you? Because, or anybody for that matter, everyone has different values and things that are important to them. And if we are going to truly serve them and help them, we have to know what is important to them, because it's 100% probably different than what I can guess would be important to them. So it's good. And I think she has kind of that old school way of thought, like that was a good thing to say in her mind, like everyone's the same. No, we're not the same. And that's what's so cool about the world, Well,
I think, how old's your mom?
84.
So she was like World War II kid, sort of?
Yeah.
Right. I knew some people from that range, too, that it seemed like their parents very much wanted them to be Americans, right? So that whole generation, it was all about trying to make your kids as American as possible, irregardless of color, language, or whatever. And I have friends of mine that their parents spoke like 5 different languages, but they didn't teach their kids because they thought, if they came from like Eastern Europe or whatever, that if they taught them, then people would sense their accent and their kid wouldn't be able to assimilate properly into American culture.
Yeah.
And so I do agree, like, that mindset from that time, their goal was different. And they were coming from places that were like war-torn,
Right.
where the differences were exploited. So, you know, if you were Jewish or whatever, and the majority of your family died in the Holocaust, you sort of inherited stuff that was survival stuff. And it's interesting how all this plays out, and how now, like you and I would be having a conversation about making our children more diverse to be more world citizens.
Yeah.
When those people knew more languages, had different experiences, and they were trying to make their children's world smaller.
Yeah.
Because they thought it would be safer.
That makes sense. That does make sense from a safety perspective.
Same with people, like, I'm not the expert, but I like to read and I try and educate myself. So you've got all these people in the U.S. that if you were from an African American family, but you were white enough to pass, and then these families separated over time, that now that all these kids are doing their own DNA tests and research, they're finding their families again. They're like, oh my God, my cousins are black. Who knew?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, there are just all these funny things about the U.S. that way, that when you boil it all down, though, I do think we are more alike than we are different.
Yeah.
Even for all of that, even for the most extreme and the racist stuff. Like, I heard someone speak the other day and I was like, you're right. He was an African American man, and he was basically saying, if I go to Europe or somewhere else, I'm gonna know another American. I'm gonna have more in common with a white American from a similar place, because culturally we're more the same. Just like, you know, I would have very little in common with an African person, but people may see us as like, well, we're both dark.
Right.
But actually, like, me and the white person would technically have more in common because of the area that we're from.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And that's why I get disappointed about these people right now that are exploiting all this shifting and division, because I'm like, what's your end game? Like, do you really hate America that much? And if so, go through your cabinet and your CDs and whatever, and filter out all the black and the Hispanic and whatever else, and see what a bland, like, actual diet and musical diet you have.
Yeah.
Because all of it goes into the pot of what is American. And it's regional as well. So, like, we're from Indiana. We're not, like, white from Louisiana. Certainly not the Bayou. You could put two of us in the same room and we'd be like we were from different countries too, because our experiences are different. But you put an African American and a white person from, like, the Bayou in Louisiana, they're going to be more alike.
Yeah.
And
it's not the surface that you see.
And that's what I dislike the most about the people right now that are trying to, like, they're trying really hard to motivate all this division when all of us have worked so hard to overcome it. And it's like, how far do you want this to go? Like, what do you want to be left after? Like,
right.
Have you even thought of that?
Yeah.
And then to have people coming from other places, like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, like, you didn't grow up here. You don't really know what it means to be in America. You're going to tell us. You're going to tell us. You're going to tell some family like mine that's been here from, like, the 1700s what it means to be an American? Oh, please, step off.
But you're right, it's so easy, and that was, like, one of the first things that happened, the removal of diversity, equity, and inclusion, is the things that brought us together. They wanted to divide and just take that struck me as the strangest thing to hit as one of the first things to, I was like, why that? But it happened, and no one fought it. No one, not no one, that's, no one on that side questioned that.
What I noticed, I might be wrong, it would be interesting. This should have been a panel discussion. It would have been interesting to have, like, one of our African American friends sit in on this.
Yeah.
Because their perspective might be totally different.
Right.
We might have to do that in the future.
That would be good.
But I thought that the racism was farther down than it was. I think they hit the big red button on the racism, and they gave permission to people to be racist and bigots again. And
Yes.
I think maybe those people were fighting it longer and harder than they knew. And it felt good. Felt good to be bad for a while. But I don't think it's going to feel good to be bad at the expense of your children and your grandchildren. And they don't see that yet.
Yeah.
That, like, they might be 80, they might be 70, like, raging racist. But they can't see 50 years down the road of how will that serve my kids, my grandkids, or whatever. Because they grew up in a time in an area that, for whatever, racist ideology they have to accept that even then it was diverse.
Right.
Even at those times, for those people that are really just lying to them, that are like, let's go back to the great white nation. Like, we were never a white nation. Like, the whole land was populated with brown people.
Right.
First,
Right.
like, just right out the gate. This was not like some big white Aryan nation, ever. So I think it's important to have that conversation and sit with it and be like, right, for whatever your thoughts are, which I'm not saying that all of them are good, but we have to have a truth conversation and sit with it ourselves and, like, sit in that uncomfortability and be like, right, this is what I think. These are the facts that I have. And I think that right now what's disturbing is, and I think that probably is where a lot of people's questions lie, is like, are they going to be successful in convincing grown-ups that facts don't matter and that history doesn't matter? I'm leaning towards no, but I think that's what's sitting on the table right now with, like, PragerU and all this stuff. It's like, those that know, those that were in school, that, like, we were taught that, like, the Holocaust was bad. It was a bad time. People did bad things.
Right.
It was not like, it happened, it was bad. Same with, like, slavery happened, and it was bad. Like, these were not good things. And for whatever whitewashed version you got, I think the general consensus was like, hey, this was a bad thing that happened in American history, and we probably don't need a do-over because we saw what happened. Same with European history. Like, the Holocaust was bad. Like, the whole world was in a bad place for a long while, and it took a lot of rebuilding because of some racists.
And I think I would like to think that some people that are in leadership positions in the government or whatever now are questioning those things, but they don't feel personally strong enough. I don't know what their story is to stand up and say, wow, I have to question what's happening right now. I really, I was wrong. I don't know.
Well, I think we can give them permission now for those that, like, if you're on the fence, just say, hey, man, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I think it's deeper. I think when you have people that make $174,000 a year and haven't really been doing the job, and most people in Indiana, for example, are making, like, maybe a family is making like 50, 55,000.
Right.
And you're not living in these communities and you're detached, how could they possibly understand?
They wouldn't, yeah.
And so I think they're so far removed. And I think a lot of politicians right now, they feel above the people. That's what I see. Like, they're no longer representative of their constituents. And by the type of things that they say, it shows. Mm-hmm. Like, it used to be not a good thing in Indiana, at least. Like, as a whole. I'm making a general reference here, but like, leaders, people that we respected, were seen more as, like, calm, polite, deliberate in their words, not trying to cause division intentionally.
Right.
And somewhere along the way, that shifted the other way. So for me, when I look at stuff like that, I see weakness. And I don't care if it's a man or a woman. Mm-hmm. I think the difference is maybe people thought along the way they lost their power, and now they're realizing they didn't. So there's a timeline on these people. Mm-hmm. And whatever they thought, whether they acknowledge it or change or apologize, like their time is done. Anybody right now that is sitting in an office somewhere, even if they're a secretary, if they have let some of this stuff pass and not had some sort of an opinion,
Right.
even in their own office, just if they've just sat on it, like we'll speak about autism, right? Like nobody really significant that's holding office in Indiana right now has really said anything about the autism stuff. And I hold them equally accountable. I don't care, like Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, whatever, especially the ones that have kids with autism. I'm like, right now, you need to have a coming to Jesus talk with yourself and decide who's more important, your kid or your party or your seat.
Yeah.
Like, those are the type of conversations these politicians should be having with themselves. Because at the end of the day, I think we're still more of a nation of like the Abraham Lincolns and the Teddy Roosevelts at the core. I think that's more what we're about. And some of these other people that are playing politician, I don't believe that the American populace will continue to allow that. I think there's a movement right now for the populace wanting people that are more representative of them in places like that.
I feel like we need to take you on a speaking tour to get people united. And
Never know.
I think you should.
We never know. We never know where things may lead, but I know that I'm paying attention and I care, and I'm going to encourage everybody that seems like they have any kind of a voice. Like, I'm just lighting a fire. I'm like, go do your thing. Like, go preach to the masses. And I would love to get more young kids doing this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't know, and I think, everybody always says younger generations suck. Like they said it about us.
Right.
But I think this generation is interesting because they were raised with all that technology. And I do think I don't like the word tolerant, but for lack of a better way to put it, like they don't care so much. They weren't necessarily raised with as many of the baked in prejudices that maybe we were and had to fight or had to learn better. I think they're going to be an interesting group.
I agree.
I'd like to hear more of them speak and come on here, have conversations with us.
I was like, you don't want my daughter to come on here.
Yeah, no,
you do.
I actually might be really interested by that. Have a little panel of 16 to 18-year-olds and be like, what do you think? Yeah. What do you want America to be? Because we need to be building that for you guys.
I think that's a great idea. I think that would be very interesting.
Ask her. Why not? Let's do it.
She would totally do it.
Okay. Well, now we have a bonus episode cooking. See, that's what I like about this podcast. We come on, we have conversations, we try and find solutions to problems, and it's like real people doing it.
What would be really cool is a panel of similar age groups from different schools or different places. I think that would be interesting.
Why not? Well, now you've roped yourself into something else. You're going to have to help me organize that.
Yeah. No, I think that's important.
Yeah.
To just gauge that generation.
Well, and I'd love that, if there are anybody like your daughter's age that maybe she goes to school with, that they also are part of the neurodivergent community where we have a mixed panel of the neurodivergent and not, but also of that age range.
Oh, yeah.
That could be really interesting. And I think it'd be a really good perspective for those people that don't know or don't have access to the community. Like, I don't know. I just feel like trans issues, for example. We should be having panels of trans people, talking about this stuff to the masses and being like, ask them a question. Like, is this true? Oh, it's not true. Well, what is true? Because there are all these people running around right now talking for groups of people that they're not it.
Nor have ever met.
Right. Like, are you autistic? Do you have children that are autistic? Do you have autistic kids in your community? No? Well, you probably should
Yeah.
Yeah. See, we're coming up with all kinds of good ideas.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
See, that's the beauty of this podcast. You never know what you're really walking into because we just talk and then we go down all these rabbit holes.
It's awesome.
Well, was there anything else you wanted to talk about today?
A million things that I can't think of right now. I had my little soapbox
Well, you can come back.
ideas. I will.
Yeah, yeah, come back.
But no, I definitely think we need to organize the next generation and see what they have to say. Because I know what one has to say, and I think you'd find it entertaining if nothing else. But yeah.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, I mean, it might be dark for some people to say this, but I just feel this way. Like, our time is done. We've had an opportunity to live our lives. And right now, we should be creating a space and creating an environment to usher in the youth.
Right.
We should be mentoring them to make them ready to take our places.
Right.
So, like, all these things that we're learning how to do, like, we should be mentoring these kids and giving them opportunities like we had to have, practice at business. Like, how are these kids going to know what they like if we don't even give them a shot?
Yeah.
I still probably don't really know what I love and who I want to be. Like, that might be a continuous
And also
life
just
process.
permission to explore instead of just saying, okay, you're going to do this because that's what your parents did and that's what they want you to do. Explore. Which it all falls back to self-advocacy. So it's really all we need to teach.
Yeah. Well, and we need more artists and stuff. Like, and I don't know, there's lots of things. But I mean, we just have to do better for our youth. And having this conversation with you, I think that's important to bring them in. Like, we can't just talk about them. We need to bring them in and ask them.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think? What do you want? Are we doing the right things? And if we're not, enlighten us. Like, if we think we're advocating for you, but we're not giving you a seat at the table.
Right. And what's their perspective and what are they, what information are they being fed to and by who?
Especially the ones that are getting ready to be able to vote. That would be really interesting to me. Like, right, you're going to be walking into an election soon. What do you think? How much do you really know about American history, politics, civics? Like, what are they teaching you in school?
Exactly.
What do you think would be, like, helpful?
Yeah.
What do you need from us? How can we help you?
I think that'll be good.
Me too. Well, I think we'll wrap it up for now, and then we'll have you come back.
All right.
Especially after you get your degree, because I want to hear about that.
Okay. Few weeks.
All right.
A Christmas episode.
So, a Christmas episode. I always ask everybody this. So, for all the things that we talked about, if people don't walk away with anything else, what do you want them to know about Kari? Like, what's that one or those couple things that, if they can't remember everything you talked about, what do you want them to remember about you?
That I was going to say that I'm old. That I just don't. I keep learning every day so much more, and I think the older I get, the more confident. And I don't know that that happens to everyone necessarily. But I've definitely probably over the last 6 years have found this voice that I didn't even know I had. And that I want all people to do that and to share their thoughts and feel comfortable, even if it's something that probably I would disagree with. I think that's important to just give people that space to get to know them. And so I like to be that person for people.
Okay. Well, we appreciate having you. And
Thank you.
Hopefully you will come back.
I will.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
We are at a pivotal point in American history. We do not have the luxury to remain silent. Programs are disappearing every day. We hope that this podcast raises awareness and sparks a sense of advocacy in you. We all can make a difference. The important thing is to start. See you next time.